All right, let's do some convo. It's the Sunday Spectacular for March 23rd, 2025. Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo. The program always supported and brought to you by our good friends at Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. 1 month to go, or 1 week to go in the month of March. Tariffs are on the horizon. Here is the thing for us. We want to make sure that we're in a position to help you out with your next vehicle, and I cannot wait to do that for you. And if you get in touch with me right now, I'll kick in a couple of extra bucks before the tariffs hit and get you on the road and whatever you like, especially with leases right now. Residuals are about to drop. So this is the absolutely perfect time. And when you support our sponsor, you support the podcast. Mr. Augello, I was talking about the quality wins, right? I was talking about quality wins during the last show when it's a 2-1 gutted out kind of affair versus a very difficult team. I mean, you win, you get the stats, you get the moral kind of inflation of your ego and everything, and it just kind of carries you forward. Last night was a defeat at the hands of the lowly Nashville Predators. And it was kind of an anemic way to finish up, man. Like, it was not a quality loss whatsoever, going up 2 goals in the first period, then just basically laying down at the hands of the Predators and falling apart, losing the 2 points to a team that you should have beat. John Tavares said, he's pissed off and the team should be pissed off. Craig Berube brought up all the mental mistakes the team made. I mean, come on now. Like, should you not be doing better at this time of the season, knowing what's at stake? Good morning.
Good morning, Norm. This is not new. This is a team that has lacked killer instinct for years. This is a team that has laid down against bad teams for years. And this was another example of it. And the thing is, it's like, okay, they played great against Calgary. It's like they had lost 5 of 6, then they beat Calgary. And then they had a great goaltending performance from Joseph Woll against Colorado, and they earned a victory, which maybe they didn't deserve against the Avalanche. And then they beat the Rangers, who are a struggling team, and they hold on at the end for a 4-3 win. This is a game that they absolutely, positively needed to win, especially with the fact that Florida lost and Tampa Bay lost in regulation on Saturday. So you had first place in your sights, and you're up 2-0, and you have a goal that's called back on a high stick, which I think was a 50-50 call, and you are so soft mentally that there was a penalty at the end of the first period. You give up a power play goal, and then it's, oh boy, I don't know what's going on, and you get outworked by a Predators team that has almost nothing to pay for. Now, okay, of course, everybody in the chat is going to expect me to do this, but I'm going to do it. The bunting goal was a perfect shot inside the pole. The second goal, which I think was it Michael McCarron? I don't know. If you look at the replay, it was Kiefer Bellows, former Toronto Marley, Kiefer Bellows. Picks top corner. There's about this much space, and he picks it. The third goal was basically a push in front of the net with a defenseman and Wall getting pushed in. And then the fourth goal, and everybody in the chat was talking about Morgan Rielly at the end of a shift, pressing for the tying goal. And then they come back down the other way, and Rielly and Carlo are not on the same page. And Luke Evangelista gets the puck right in front of the net. I don't blame the loss on Wall. I blame the loss on the team being completely soft, right, and falling apart after being up 2-0. I'm sorry. If you understand why people doubt this team, last night is the reason why.
Not a quality loss. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. oakridgeford.com. Norm in London. Mike in Buffalo. Guys, like the content, subscribe to the channel, share what we do with your friends. Dominic S., if that third Laughton goal was good, Leafs go on to destroy Nashville. That was the turning point. If that was indeed the turning point, Mike, boy, are the Leafs ever weak.
Well, I mean, okay, you can be bummed. You can be bummed at the fact that that Laughton's goal didn't count. I think it should have counted. It was like I said, it was a 50-50 call. But you finish off the period up 2-0, and Matthew Nyes takes an interference call. I didn't see the call. I didn't see like why he got called. But again, what has been the problem with this team ongoing for probably 2 months? Their penalty killing is abysmal. It was 30th in the league. I don't know, since January 26th. I saw that stat on that Sportsnet posted.
Mm-hmm.
They've given up power play goals since then, so it can't be much better than that. So right now, I mean, their power play, and the power play is doing better. I still don't like the 5-4 power play, but their penalty killing is atrocious. And in a playoff scenario, you need to kill penalties at the right time. Now, one of the things I don't like is they're using Matthews and Marner on the penalty kill. They're playing power play, they're playing first line minutes, and now they're playing first line penalty kill.
Why?
I know they're young, but
why?
That's
why? Because they're the big dogs. They make all the money.
I think
they're just supposed to be out there. That's what you do when you're a team leader. Is that why they're out there, Mike?
I think there's a want on those players to do as much as they possibly can. They're both good defensively, but I also think that.
But it's not their choice to be out there. It's the head coaches.
Right. But, I mean, I think also they want to use the fact that tandem is dangerous going the other way, and you might pick up shorthanded goals, and you might pick up, the team that's on the power play being a little more defensive and a little more careful. And that, but, then they go off the ice and you have Nyes and Holmberg and Yarncroke sometimes, and Laughton sometimes. We'll get to Laughton in a minute. It's just not working. And
they could have batted this team around last night, Mike. They really should have. The Predators had lost 4 in a row. They're going nowhere. The Leafs had won 3 in a row, trying to right the ship after that 5-game stumble. You go up 2-0, and then you just lay down. It's remarkable, though. It's telling, and it was expected. We've seen this team buckle before. It won't be the last time, most likely this season, and that's a bad thing. Be skinny. They aren't aggressive on the PK. They just stand around with their sticks out.
Yeah, obviously their strategy is get in the lane, block a potential shot from occurring. And positionally, that's fine, but it's very passive. And what it tells you is if they're not being aggressive, that tells you that they don't have the confidence in this team to be aggressive and to stay in good defensive position. Now, on the PK, their first shift, and this is getting into the weeds, their first shift is Matthews and Marner and McCabe and Tanev, which is very solid. Then you've got your second pairing, which sometimes is defensive pairing on the PK, is Simon Benoit and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, or Carlo. Now they've mixed in Carlo, and I'm telling you right now, the Leafs defense 1 through 5 is pretty solid. I know people have a lot of problem with Rielly. We'll talk about that in a second. And I liked what Simon Benoit did last year. He was aggressive. He was physical. But he's Simon Benoit. He's not a great defenseman. He makes bad decisions. He takes bad penalties. I would like to see them put Philippe Myers in there and maybe move Ekman-Larsson to the left side, because Benoit is taking dumb penalties and and he is costing them games. And I don't think he's playing particularly well. But I know that Berube, he falls in love with certain players, like in St. Louis, he fell in love with guys like Robert Bortuzzo. They're
very coaches.
Yes, okay. If you fall in love with a player, at least if he's effective, he doesn't hurt you, then that's fine. If you fall in love with a player who's flawed, then I'm sorry that can cost you games.
And so this isn't tactical in your opinion. This is due to the wrong personnel being in the toughest situation at the most inopportune time.
I think there's some tactics there as well that maybe they could change. I mean, that's up to, I think Lane Lambert is the PK guy. But, right now, and please, somebody is saying Carlo is a gentle giant. Michael McCarron was trying to goad him into a retaliatory penalty, and he was smart enough not to take the bait.
Right.
You don't want them to take the bait.
Carlos looked a lot better than he did when he first arrived here.
Well, and like I say, I know that people are having a problem with Rielly, and let's tackle that, because I think Rielly and Carlo has been a pretty decent defensive pairing. I mean, once they got settled in and start to learn more about each other, right, I think that they're going to be even better. He's the right shot, big defenseman that they need to play with Rielly, to allow Rielly to take offensive forays. Last night, Rielly was at the end of the shift. They had a scoring opportunity. They go the other way on a 2-on-2, and Rielly and Carlo got confused. Both of them ended up on the player who had the puck, who passed it to Luke Evangelista wide open in front of the net. Wide open. So that was a missed assignment. I'm sorry. If this team goes anywhere, it's going to be Morgan Rielly being their best defenseman. Now, some people may say, well, then they're cooked. He's not having a good year, but he didn't have a good year one year when he was injured, came back, and then played phenomenal in the playoffs.
Mike, what indication do you have that exceptional play that we've never seen before from this player, Morgan Rielly, is bubbling under the surface? What gives you the feeling that it's bound to happen and in the nick of time?
Just history. I mean, I think he's there's no injury here. I see, and fans are not going to be willing to give a player a pass when it's when there are things going on off right. the ice. He's a new father. That might be a distraction. Who knows? I'm just saying, you look for excuses because the player is a good player and has been a good player for years.
Mike, but he's the central defenseman on a team that has not reached the expectations
right
ever.
And now
no one is going to give him the benefit of the doubt. All right. of these guys have personal things going on.
Right.
Fair enough. And you're the voice of reason when it comes to Morgan Rielly. But let's be honest, 9 out of 10 fans right now don't like the guy. T-Sack, I can't defend Rielly anymore. He just looks lost out there too often. It wasn't a great game for Rielly last night. And it's too bad because the things we want of him, he cannot produce. He is a 1A. He is a top 2 defenseman, but he is not a 1. Never has been. And that's more of an indictment of the organization, either not being able to trade for one or draft one. Morgan Rielly is what he is. He's always going to leave something to be desired. And the fan base desires a lot more than what Morgan Rielly can give.
And unlike previous years, he's not on an island where he has to play at a superstar level. And, they have Joel Edmondson and Justin Hall backing him. He does have a 2 through 5 that is probably the best, with McCabe and Tanev being the shutdown pairing, with Carlo and with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. There is depth on the blue line. So if he was playing at the level of, say, last year or the previous year, their defense would be fantastic. He's playing at, people are saying, stop with the excuses. I'm not giving an excuse. I'm saying okay. He has been a good player. I still think, he is not over the hill. He, $7.5 million out there, folks, is not number one defenseman money anymore. Number one defenseman money is $9 to $10 million. That's what Makar is getting. That's what Adam Fox is getting. That's what Heiskanen's a little under that. That's what they're being paid. So, he's not going anywhere, folks. He's got a no move clause. He's not being traded. They can't trade him. He's going to stay there. Now, that's not going to happen. So you can bitch and moan as much as you want. But I still think there's something there, and I think he'll turn it. I think, I would think and I would hope that he turns it on in the playoffs. But the problem, you can't ignore the fact that he seems a bit slower, that he's making some bad decisions.
Right.
And, they're going to need him to be better if they're going to go anywhere.
Like the content, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support. Always check out YouTube or Leafs Convo shorts, our clips on TikTok. If you guys are there, like what we do, subscribe to Leafs Convo clips on TikTok. Morgan Rielly a -2 yesterday. I mean, he doesn't have much of a shot, Mike. He just doesn't represent the defenseman of wax that we've all been craving to see wear the blue and white. What would this team be like if Morgan Rielly's on it or not? You take away one of the big four and you add a bona fide, stalwart, blue chip, top 10 defenseman like a Cale Makar, a Quinn Hughes, or Victor Hedman in his prime. What would this team be like if you had that big body back there, that perennial all-star, and the kind of defenseman the Leafs haven't had for 40, 50 years, going back to Boreas Salming? What do you think this team would be like if it had that kind of player?
Well, you might find, somebody said Brian Leach. Brian Leach was at the end of his career, and
he doesn't count. He was there for 2 seconds. It's not.
I mean, you can drop in McCabe. You can Brian McCabe or Thomas Cabaret or Robert Svala for a year. I mean, they have not had a superstar blue liner since Boreas Salming in the late 70s and early 80s. They've drafted guys high, Luke Shen. Gary Nyland in the 80s, Jim Benning in the 80s. I mean, Dave Ellett was successful for a time. They have not had a superstar, first all-star, second all-star type of defenseman in almost 40 years.
I'm talking Paul Coffey, Ray Bourque.
Right. They have not had that. Have not had that. Now, you may find that they could get that once they walk away from Mitch Marner, because then they'll have the cap space to maybe go after a defenseman if there's a defenseman in free agency. Guys like Makar are not going to shake loose. They're not. I mean, if you want to think like Makar is 1 year away, I think, from free agency, he's never getting to free agency. If Colorado can't sign him, they'll trade him, and then the other team will sign him, like Rantanen. That's not happening. Do you want to trade for or sign Jacob Chikrin? I don't believe he's signed an extension with Washington, but why would you leave Washington? Washington's one of the best teams in the league. So you either develop that defenseman or you are opportunistic and you trade for that defenseman. But, right now, they're stuck with what they have. And Morgan Rielly has to play like Morgan Rielly has played. I still think that he can do that, but I mean, I understand the fans ripping on him because he has not lived up to expectations.
Guys, what say you? What do you think of this recent game that the Leafs failed at, right? Winning 3 in a row, going into Nashville. I mean, that was as simple a win as you could have. Go in, play your game, get it done, leave Nashville, come home, get ready for the Flyers. Instead, it's a complicated situation. The Leafs, you can't batten down the hatches or continue that momentum that was generated in the first period, and here we are. Again, there's the optics, Mike. They're still in first place, right? But it's the quantity versus the quality. And as we get closer to the end, the quality, Mike, the quality is lacking. The quality in the wins, even the quality of the losses, the quality is lacking, and you need quality to get anywhere.
Zach in the chat was asking the question that I was prepared to answer about Scott Laughton. And here's the thing. And I've made this clear. Anybody who's watched the Convo all year, and when the rumors about Laughton started to come up, anybody who's watched Off the Post with Russ and Anthony, who cover the Flyers and know Laughton very well, he wasn't worth a first-round pick. He never was. Now, the prices, because Brock Nelson got traded in a deal involving a first-round pick and Yanni Gourde, those were options that I think the Leafs explored. But I mean, I think it was Chris Johnston said the Leafs were interested in making 2 trades, getting a defenseman and getting a forward. And they probably would have had to give up both first-round picks in a deal for Braden Shen, and then they wouldn't have been able to trade for Carlo. Okay. But the problem is that Scott Laughton, and maybe Zach is right. He says, does Berube have a problem? I don't think he has a problem with him, but Scott Laughton was playing in one system in one city for 7 years, whatever it was in Philly. And now he's dropped into a playoff race with the Leafs with a new coach in, 20 games left in the regular season. He I said I doubted he was a third line center. He can play wing, he can play center, but now you've moved him in the span of 8 games. You've moved him from third line center to fourth line center to fourth line wing, and you're back to playing.
Mike, let me just interrupt you.
Wait. You're back to playing Max Domi and David Kampf in your bottom 6, which is a losing proposition.
We had suggested Laughton be an option for the Maple Leafs. That's us as a fan base. Do you not think his name was mentioned with Berube and his staff discussing with Brad Treliving options possible that they might be able to bring aboard? Like,
I'm sure.
I can't imagine Craig Berube was floored that the Leafs had acquired Scott Laughton.
No, I'm sure that he was aware of that, but it's how the player is playing, and that's
right.
Now, and I'm pretty sure that Laughton was there when Berube was coach. Berube was an assistant when Laughton broke into the NHL in 2013, and then when he was head coach in 2014, Laughton played for him. So he knows him. I'm not saying but he's clearly not playing very well. And now you've moved him down the lineup, and the optics are bad. I mean, I'm sorry, the optics are really bad. Now, somebody else said they lost. You just put up on the screen that they lost both trades. I don't think they lost both trades. Brandon Carlo is the right shot defenseman that they've needed for probably 5 or 6 years. Okay, so I mean, he's got 2 more years left in the contract. He's big, he's tough, had playoff experience. Do I like giving up Fraser Minton? No, I think he's going to be a good player. Do I think he's going to be a superstar? No. The Leafs didn't think he was going to be a superstar, but I think they thought he was going to be a third line center. And the problem was he wasn't going to be a third line center for them this year. And everything is focused on this year right now, because if they don't win, who knows if Marner's out the door. There's a lot of things. They're in a similar mindset that they were with Kyle Dubas 2 years ago, where it's like win or else. Brendan Shanahan may be gone. I don't think Berube or Treliving are at risk, but there is a need to win here. But sometimes that need to win isn't reflected on how this team plays on the ice. And last night was a perfect illustration of the lack of killer instinct. And right now, things are not clicking for all the. John Tavares is playing great. He scored his 30th goal. Matthews is not been Matthews. Nylander has been there every once in a while. Marner had a goal yesterday. They're not getting consistent performances out of the players that they need to get. And if they don't get that, they will lose again in the first round.
They really should have blown the doors off Nashville last night. Like, what happened in the second period? You're up 2-0. Go get more.
I mean, preach, preacher. I mean, yes.
Really?
But
yeah,
there's no excuse. That's the thing. It's like there is absolutely no excuse for this team losing to teams that they are less that are less than them. But Norm, give me $1 for every friggin' time we've said, well, they lost to Arizona. Well, they lost to the Sabres. Well, they lost to Ottawa. They do this all the time. I'm not saying they should win. They should go 82-0, but good teams beat bad teams with regularity, and this team loses to bad teams with regularity.
Yeah, they also good teams lose to bad teams often, but good teams with pedigree can shrug those losses off, and their fan base knows that when the chips are down and when things matter the most, that team is going to get it done more often than not. The Leafs just don't have the pedigree of your Floridas, right? Of your Tampas, and previously of your Bostons, right? So
T-Sac in the chat, can the Leafs afford to play Nick Robertson in the playoffs? I say no. Well, the following comment about Pacioretty might be a factor here, because I think they miss Pacioretty, and I get a feeling that unless it's a cap thing, that they're basically saving up Pacioretty for the playoffs, preserving him. I mean, I haven't heard any update on his injury situation. I mean, ideally, I think they want Pacioretty there. I think they want Yarncroke there. That gives them more veteran experience in the bottom 6. Mm-hmm. You cannot ignore the fact that Nick Robertson scores goals. Now, if it's playing him on the 4th line, then play somebody else, because playing him 8 minutes a night doesn't help. But the guy can score goals. So I mean, I think if Pacioretty is healthy, he will be one of the 12 forwards in the lineup. His experience in the playoffs will come to the forefront there. I just don't know how much is left. I don't know what's going on with the injury situation. They might be just saving him up for the playoffs. I don't know.
Right. I wanted to go over Dominic S.'s other comment. Laughton played with Konechny, leave him on the third line, give him a look for more than 3 games. Here's the thing. He's into a new situation. He's trying to find his way, but the team that he's just joined is in an urgent mode to have somebody come in and be really effective. So Laughton, Philadelphia forever, comes to Toronto, kind of a deer in the headlights, and is trying to fit in. The Leafs need somebody to fit in right away. It's just not jiving. So player needs time. The fucking team doesn't have the kind of time that Laughton needs to assimilate. You know what I'm saying?
Laughton, if you know, I don't believe Laughton played all season with Konechny. Laughton only has 27 points. He's not a scorer. He's not. You know, his career high is 18 goals. Okay. He's more of a 10 to 12 point guy who can penalty kill, who can be physical. Okay. That's, you know, if you get that out of your third line center and he's tough and he's, you know, he's got sandpaper, that's great. Now, all of a sudden you've moved him down to fourth line wing. Okay. What he's doing now is not worth the price that they paid. And, you know, you can regret the fact that they traded Grubjankin. I think he would have been an NHLer, but again, this team is on a win or else focus. So they had to give up future players for now players. And the only benefit for that is Carlo's got 2 years and Laughton's got another year and the salaries are in line. But they need Laughton to play better. And right now he's not playing. He's 8 games, 0 points, -5.
Right. We can talk about it until our faces turn blue. It's going to change nothing. It's up to the Maple Leafs. They leave a lot to be desired. Craig Berube was you stressed it last night. The team made a lot of mental mistakes against the Nashville Predators. Mentality is the thing. A winning mentality, the Leafs just don't have it in full. They don't have enough of it to achieve the kinds of things we want them to achieve, but in the back of our minds know they're incapable of achieving until the team is configured differently. Let's take the next 10 minutes. OG's Converts, ask your questions, and Mike and I will respond to them. First one, Cryptic Cowboy. Mike, if the Leafs go down in the first, what's the big move or the first big move of the summer? Well, it's the move they don't have to make because number 16 will 100% be gone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the big move will be Marner not being part of this team. I think that they'll re-sign Tavares. I mean, if they get past the first round, then I think that they'll pony up and pay Marner. But again, I question whether Marner, as much as he says, I love Toronto, I want to stay in Toronto. Okay, well then, I'm not saying take less. I'm saying then, you know, take less than Matthews, but you get a raise. Okay, I don't think he's going to. There are some people who believe he doesn't want to play in Toronto. That he doesn't. That I think Steve Simmons in a column last week said that, you know, he's tired of being the piñata for the Leafs Nation. Well, okay, I get it, folks, but you know what? With money comes responsibility, and if you don't perform when it counts, then you're responsible. And hey, if you don't want to face that pressure, enjoy Utah, enjoy LA. I'm sure you will. But, you know, here in the crucible, in the center of the hockey universe, if you don't perform, you're going to get called out.
Don't you just feel like it's time to end the relationship? Even if he takes a little less to stay in Toronto, there's a toxicity that's just bubbling under the surface that is never going to go away unless this team goes on a major run and we can, you know, start a fresh relationship with number 16, because what we've finally seen from him is the things we wanted from him year in and year out that he has not been able to produce. Spike 11, Mike, would you bring back Tavares?
Yes, but again, it depends on salary. Now he clearly wants to stay. He wants to negotiate with them. They're saying, okay, we'll wait till the end of the year. He's got 30 goals. He's 34 years old. I would not sign him to anything more than a 3-year contract. I would not sign him. And he's not going to take 1-year deals, and he's 34. So, the 35 and over factor is not there. Okay, he's 34. I would sign him to a 3-year deal. I'm saying nothing more than, say, $5.5 million. They need the cap space. For one thing, and I'm sure the chat will blow up, I'm signing Matthew Nyes to an 8-year deal right this friggin' second.
Why do you think people would disagree, Mike? I mean, he is the guy. He's Wendell Clark-esque in his size and his ability to be. No, hold on, just in size and what he represents as a power forward.
Yeah, okay. As a power forward, yes. I don't think he doesn't have the wrist shot that Wendell Clark does, and he's not the physical impact force that Wendell Clark was.
He could become that.
No, you know what I mean. Honestly, Norm. I mean, even though Nyes is big and he pushes people around, he's physical and he's strong. Remember, he's been concussed by the Zach Whitecloud hit. He was concussed by Sam Bennett in the playoffs. I don't think he can run around and be Tom Wilson. They don't want him to be. They want him to be a scorer. They want him to be a physical presence. I think he can do that, but you don't want him running around like a chicken with his head cut off. You just don't want that. I have not heard that Tavares' agent is asking for $7 million. If it's going to be $7 million, then they might say that's too much. I mean, he's got to be willing to take. But
is the player not going to be driving these negotiations?
Yes.
Unlike Marner and most players, it's the player wants money, but it's the agent who's no trade clause. We're not negotiating. Here's the kind of money we want. Where Tavares is in the timeline of his career and the kinds of things he wants, and I don't believe it's any coincidence that he's playing well in this. Contract year. He wants
to stay in Toronto. I mean, I'm sorry, that contract, for all the people who complain that they shouldn't have signed Tavares, he has been a great player for every year of the 7 years. Every year, he's given him 30 goals. He's a leader. He's not a rah sis boom ba guy, but he's consistent. He is just, he's not Gary Roberts. He's not going to run around. He's not going to yell and scream at people. He's just a solid pro. And
the thing is, the Leafs, the ironic thing is the Leafs need that kind of guy. And
yes.
I mean, Max Domi should be that guy, but Max is around and then he's gone and then he's around. He's just too inconsistent of a player to
Is it any coincidence, Norm, that the best Max Domi has played this year was the 4 or 5 games that he played on the wing?
Mm-hmm.
When he played on the wing, he was better. When he played at center, and they move him back to center, and then he's too conscious of being responsible defensively, which he's not good at.
But why doesn't the coaching staff identify this fucking shit and just keep guys in position where they can be as elevated as possible that will benefit the team more often than not?
Yeah, that's a good question. A coach gets comfortable with players in certain places. And, if somebody is not working out, like Laughton is not working out right now up the middle, then he resorts back to putting David Kampf on the 4th line and putting Domi on the 3rd line. It's just, you resort to what is comfortable. But to answer the question before, think of it this way. Marner makes 11. Tavares makes 11. If they re-sign Tavares at, say, 6, well, we'll say 6. Then you've got $16 million in cap space that you had allocated this year that you don't have allocated next year. If Nyes gets signed for 8 times 8, so that's half of your cap space that you freed up by re-signing Tavares at a lesser amount and walking away from Marner. Is 7 times 8 good enough to get Sam Bennett? Maybe. And maybe that's what they do. Maybe that's what maybe they sign Sam Bennett. He's their number 3 center, number 2 center. They move Tavares to the wing, or they move Domi to the wing. That might be what they do. But, they can't think of it that way. And the thing is, Sam Bennett, he doesn't want to leave Florida. Florida can open up the cap space. He's reopen negotiations. Then, and he signs in Florida, then there's no big target. Like somebody said, Nikolai Ehlers. Okay, Nikolai, you're gonna replace Marner with Nikolai Ehlers. I can just see how that's gonna go.
Railmans, thank you for the great show. I have lost interest in watching the Leafs a long time ago. Always tuning in just because of the two personalities on the show. Railmans, thank you very much. Let's take a few more questions here. Mike Matthew. OG, do you think the Leafs exit early? CEO cleans house in upper management if the Leafs exit early.
Keith Pelly will go in with a samurai sword and chop off Brendan Shanahan's head if they lose in the first round. And that's being graphic, but
okay, you said head, use the word head. Is he simply a figurehead at this point, or do you feel like just because this team has failed again, and he is the de facto leader of the entire process, he has to go?
He's the face of the Shanahan plan. Okay. And this, I don't know about this year. I get the feeling that Treliving is more in control of the roster and the moves that they've made. I'm sure Shanahan still has some input. He was at the game last night in Nashville. But yeah, I mean, I think he
didn't look too happy. He looked pretty anxious.
No. Great, yeah, wonderful. He was, I know, you always see him in the press box at the Scotiabank Arena. Maybe they're just, he's worried. He is worried.
What would his salary be, and what the hell does he do?
Okay,
$3 million a year.
Yes. Oh, easily.
To do what? The Leafs don't need a guy like that to give the organization legitimacy anymore. Remember back in the day, Brian Burke comes over, made the Leafs feel legitimate once again. Not a bunch of also rans. It's a well-known figure. Ken Dryden, a well-known figure. When you acquire John Tavares, the team's on its way, the biggest free agent signing ever. I think we're way past that now. We don't need figureheads. We don't need people who have had great careers to come to the organization and lend legitimacy to it. We're way past that now. The team is legitimate. It's just the results lack legitimacy.
Okay, earlier in his tenure, I think he had more to do with the decisions being made, and that I think should be held against him because people are ready to skewer Kyle Dubas. Had Kyle Dubas not been fired in the summer of 2023, then we would not be in this dilemma with Mitch Marner because either Mitch Marner or William Nylander would have been traded. I was at the press conference that Kyle Dubas had after the end of the season, and after they lost to Florida, and he basically was saying, "Well, I think we're going to need to change some things around," and I got the impression that meant that the core was going to get broken up. Okay, so if that was the case, and then Shanahan fires him because Dubas was trying to, go around him. Well, firing Dubas and hiring Treliving in that summer, July 1st of 2023, the no move clause dropped in on Marner, and you entered the final year of Nylander's deal. Nylander gets $11.5 million. Because he's playing well. So they had their back up against the wall, and they couldn't trade Marner because Treliving had just taken over the job. So everything that's going on right now, everything is because Brendan Shanahan fired Dubas, and Dubas couldn't make the move. Now, okay, fine. Fire him right at, you fired him right after the playoffs, and July 1st was less than, 7 weeks away. Mm-hmm. And the guy walks into a situation, and the last thing he wants to do is blow things up when he just took over the job. So that is on Shanahan. And if this team fails, that is on Shanahan. And Shanahan will take the brunt of the responsibility. And
look, when he joined the organization all those years ago, it was to help public relations. Today, he's bad for public relations, especially if he's there making a lot of money, not doing a hell of a lot, and representing another era of failure, right? Forget the 100-point seasons, forget the division titles, forget the Rocket Richard trophies. When it's one and done in the playoffs year after year, it's just It's not going to cut it, my friend, Mr. Augello. The Leafs have, over the next week and a bit, 3 games out of the 4 to come that they should win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they should win. I mean, just on paper, they should win. But after what we witnessed in Nashville last night, for us to believe they should be winning these games against teams that are going nowhere, I mean, the joke's on us. We're the fools. So maybe no game is winnable for the Maple Leafs until they prove otherwise. Last word to you, and we'll get out of here.
Should have nothing to do with it. It's right. They have to.
Right.
They are tied with Florida. They're in a 3-way race. They play Florida 2 more times this year. One in I think April the 2nd, then in Florida later that week. They believe they play Tampa one more time. Those are the games they have to win, but they also have to win the games that they should win, which is the games against Buffalo here in Buffalo, against the lower teams. Those, if you don't win those games, that the games against Florida and Tampa are almost meaningless, because you need to be in a position to move ahead of them if you win those games. Now, they didn't really show up against Florida last week, or the last time they played them, which was, just recently. They need to show up in those games, but they also need to show up against the teams that they have to beat.
Spike 11, Montreal in 2 years will be very dangerous. The Habs, they may not be a coming, but they're coming. And, wouldn't that be something? Ben Ho, good show, guys. Ben, thank you very much. What are you working on, Mr. A?
Well, more Sabre stuff for the Hockey News, and more news to come on the new website. Looking to hopefully be up and live for the playoffs. And that will be a new home for my Leaf coverage and for the Leafs Convo on hockeyhotstove.com.
How depressing is it to be around that arena in Buffalo right now with everything?
I think fans are counting the days until the season is over with, but they're in a position right now where I think the general manager is on a tenuous path, whether, the owner has taken the trip to Utah, Winnipeg, and Minnesota. So that tells you he's keeping a watchful eye on the team. Players don't want to be in a losing situation. And this is 14 years of losing. So it's not exactly pleasant.
Well, considering it's a small market and it's not the most desirable place to go when the organization is circling the toilet bowl, there's only one way out, and that's just drafting properly and having the right people to make those kinds of decisions, and essentially taking it one season at a time. Like, talk about despair, man. I mean, we bitch and whine and moan about where the Maple Leafs are. The thing about it is we remember when the Leafs were the Sabres, and before they end up being the Sabres again, it would be nice if the team we all love so much collected some fucking hardware, right? And that's why there's this general sense of anxiety about everything that goes on with this team, because the Reaper's always lurking, if you know what I'm saying. Mr. A, I think we should get out of here. OG's converts, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Do me a solid, guys. We have a show that we recently did. It was a couple of days ago. If you go to the YouTube channel, the title is Another Crash, Riding the Leafs Wave. The thumbnail says Back at It. We need a few more views for that. If you can go and check that one out, just do us a solid and hit it as many times as you possibly can. We want to rack up some numbers there. In the meantime, like what we've done here, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about our content. We really do appreciate it. And I will cut up the clips from this show, put them to Instagram. We'll have the YouTube shorts, and I'll also send them over to other platforms like TikTok, and we can have some fun with it in the meantime. We'll most likely do another show this coming week before the Sunday Spectacular, so you have to be subscribed. You got to check the notification bell to get the latest on what we're going to do. For Mr. Augello, I'm Norm James. Hey, they lost last night. The key is wins to come, and they're fully capable of it. They just have to get in that right mental zone to make things happen. We're going to get out of here. The Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford is up.